Okay, welcome back to the Are You Strong show. I'm really excited about this guest, a nice West Coast young lady to join the show. And before I tell you who she is, I'm going to read off some accolades. She has a ton of them, but she has so many I couldn't write them all down. They take up 2, 3 pages. But what's really cool, this young lady played softball at the University of Washington, which for those who don't know, that's big time softball. I don't think it gets much better than that, right? And what's really cool, she played third base, the hot corner, and in softball, that is the hot corner. Those balls they come flying at you like you wouldn't believe. But All American, District 7 team, honorable mention, All Pac-10 multiple times, Women College World Series All Tournament team, first team, and this is what I really like. I love the athletic side, but first team All Academic All Pac-10. When you hear the athletes at that level with the academics, that's like doubly impressive. But this is how you know how super tough this girl is. She was hit by a pitch 45 times. Now, I don't know if that's a record or not, but 45 times, that's a lot. Volunteer coach at University of California, Riverside, assistant coach at Loyola Marymount University, and owner of Get Defense, a company called Get Defense, owner of The Package Deal, and author of The Real Work, a guide for the young athlete growing up in sport. Welcome to the show, Morgan Stewart.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited.
Yeah. Now, were you really hit by a pitch 45 times?
I guess so. And I think most of those came in one of my like worst hitting seasons, so I just welcomed it, right? Just get me on base.
Now, were you a slap hitter type of hitter, or
No, I was supposed to be a power hitter, so I'm on the right side.
but
And
you hit 22 home runs? I saw that.
yeah, so I don't know. I guess my feet were just really dug in there. I didn't want to move out of the way.
Right? When I'm a college softball fan. My oldest daughter played softball through high school, and we would sit there and watch all the college softball games together on ESPN. And they are so much more exciting than watching the men's baseball, you know?
Yeah, I mean the baseball guys are super talented, but there's something about the Women's College World Series.
It's,
Everybody gets into it. It's like even people that don't watch
yeah,
softball tune in for that week, and
it's the energy. It's just the
yeah.
energy. So before I hit you with a ton of questions, do me a favor, and just tell the audience just a little bit about yourself.
Yes. Well, currently I live in Anaheim, California. I do infield lessons for youth softball players, anywhere from ages 8 to about 16. We're in there Monday through Thursday, and I've created or trained now coaches to come in and coach with and for me. I also have an online membership where we train coaches, parents, and kids, all the defensive stuff. Um, yeah, so I'm a softball coach, but I also really enjoy writing. I love just being kind of a thought leader in the space of mentality and the emotional part of sports, just because I know when I was growing up, it was very difficult dealing with like a bunch of the pressures and expectations and
Yep.
being at that higher level. It's something that just doesn't stop until you just are done playing. And then
So
it's a
you're
whole
done.
nother journey.
That's a whole nother, people when they watch this show, I must have said it 100 times. I coined the phrase that athletes die twice,
Oof.
and when your playing season is over, and what really stinks about sports is nobody stops playing because they want to. Somebody tells them your career's over. Either you're too slow, too old, too whatever, you know. And if even if you want to keep playing, maybe your body says no, somebody else says no, but somebody says you can't play anymore, and then you die. But you have to live with it. And then you die in real life, which is good because you don't have to worry about it anymore, you know. But that phrase is so true that when you're no longer playing, it's like it's over. It's like your identity is like taken from you, and it's hard. A lot of athletes, especially at your level, that pressure at your level is intense. Not that no disrespect to the D3 stuff, but at your level and that pressure to win and the money behind those teams and schools is just incredible.
Yeah, it's definitely a clear part of I know that it was part of my identity, and I know that I've got a ton of friends that just went through it when they were done with sport. So,
Yeah.
yeah, part of the whole idea behind what I write about, what I post about on social media is
Yeah.
talking to that identity piece and just building yourself from the inside out versus just being very focused on the
Yeah.
results and the sport and what it looks like on the outside. And now more than ever with social media, that's all anybody seems to care about is what it looks like on the outside. So it's just makes it even tougher for these athletes growing up.
Yeah. And for those who want to, Morgan's got a library of videos on YouTube. I was just checking them out before. I think it said 417 or something.
Yeah, there's too many of them to watch, and they're from like years ago, so maybe don't dig too deep, but maybe
Well,
something better to watch is like Instagram. I'm really good on
yeah,
Instagram.
yeah,
YouTube, I'm like not as
yeah.
good
You
at.
know, I enjoy watching your Instagram posts where you're reading your book, right? And for those who don't know, Morgan's book is called The Real Work, like I said before, and this will go on YouTube too, so they can see this, and it's a great book, and it looks like a perfect read. And what I love is you got pictures of people in here, but the QR codes that is really cool, to get more information and do more stuff. Um, so I'm going to kind of bounce around with questions,
Yeah, let's
from
do it.
prior to college, college, after college, what you're doing, your book, and all kinds of stuff. But what I always love to ask the guests on the show is one is when did you know that you could play at the Pac-10 level? One, was that eighth grade, third grade, whatever? Did you know that, or did somebody point that out? And then what was the recruiting process like for you, energy wise, excitement wise, and really, was there a lot of mental stress?
Gosh, these are two loaded questions, so
Yeah.
we're just gonna go for it.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely wasn't third grade, probably wasn't eighth grade, but growing up in Southern California, it's a hotbed for softball. So I was fortunate that my mom did a ton of research. She was one of those hay bucket moms for a little bit. I don't know if anybody is a softball person, but this is like a massive chat room. It's got like drama and all the teams that have their open tryouts, and my mom was in it. I didn't have to worry about it. So she found me a couple of different teams where I was always not the best one on the team, but maybe middle of the pack. So my mindset was like, oh, I'm gonna have to work to be a starter. I'm gonna have to grind. And I never thought of myself as like far and away the best one on my team. I was just like, man, I hope I keep my starting position. And I always ended up being the starting shortstop at the end. And just for a little bit of perspective on my 16 and under, well, really 12 and under team, there were athletes that committed to ASU, Texas, Arizona State,
At 12 years old.
Louisville. What's that?
At 12 years old.
No, that we weren't committed then, but these athletes became those
Okay,
athletes.
gotcha.
So we all kind of followed each other, knew it.
Yeah.
We're like running in the same circles, right?
Yep.
There's players that were on Team USA, all these like I just knew them growing up. So
Yeah.
to say that did I know I was that I was the caliber of that? It's kind of bred into you that if you are on the best teams at that level in travel ball,
Yeah.
like you're gonna go somewhere. And I
Yep.
guess it wasn't until I was on that 16 and under team where I started getting letters from a Washington, from an Arizona, like, oh, this could actually be a thing. I actually wanted to go to Texas growing up because my dad went there. He was an offensive lineman for Texas,
Oh, nice.
and I wrote to them. I got a letter back saying, "Sorry, we're done recruiting our 2010s." And I wasn't even a 2010. That broke my heart because I'm like, wow, they don't even know who I am.
Yeah.
And just like looking at from this side now, I'm like, of course they didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
Like they're looking at a ton of other athletes, but yeah, the recruiting process is kind of gnarly. Like you're out there with thousands of other athletes and at the time, recruiting rules have changed a ton.
Oh, yeah.
So in my 16 under year at nationals, we're in South Dakota, and there's just a sea of college coaches behind the backstop. And looking back there and just knowing, okay, if I mess up right now, I could just be crossed off all of these lists. And you just like kind of are looking up, trying not to think about it. And it's cool because you know that you're in the right spot to be
Right.
seen. You're on the right team. You're the right caliber of player that they're looking at. Um, and so I go back and forth with my experience and like my athletes' experiences when they're asking me like, "Well, what was it like when you were recruited?" And I'm just thinking in my head, God, it's just like a different animal. Like
Yeah.
you're not posting on social media of like where you're playing
Yeah.
and your stats. It was pretty nerve-wracking because you either got the letter in the mail or you didn't. And I had a couple of different offers, and I chose the offer that gave me 100% scholarship. And at this point in softball, it's there's a lot of different rule changes, right?
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
a while, it was all right, people are taking up these 50%, 20%, 15% scholarships and just kind of piecing together a way to go to school. And now um, like the rules are changing. I don't even know all of the current rules, but now it's like you can't get an offer if it's not 100%. So it's just there's a lot of things that have changed since
Yeah.
I've done it.
Right.
So
Do you think it's more stressful today than it was back then? Not that that then was so far. It's not that long
no,
ago.
yeah. Yes and no. Yes and no. I think there are more kids are expecting that they're going to get a scholarship than ever before. And
Yeah.
because softball has grown, there's less scholarships to get. So in essence, it's more competitive,
Hmm.
but in a lot of ways, it's still similar. The kids that are working with quality reps, the kids that actually like are starving, they're not just hungry for a scholarship, they're starving for one. Those are the kids that are going to go. And those are
Yeah.
the kids that and it's always been the same no matter what. Now practice for softball, for sports in general, has changed, right? It used to be my speech at clinics was like, hey, you guys got to go work. Now everybody's got practice 6 days a week and they're all
Yeah.
working, but the reps are just not quality. So they're just like
Yeah.
their bodies are there, but their minds are not there.
Right.
So now that I'm preaching, like, all right, got to get quality reps because everybody's working. How are you going to find a way to outwork? How are you going to be the best? And that's what I think is missing in a lot of youth development right now is everybody is kind of like palms up girl, right? Like, well, what about me? What about
Yeah.
like, I did the work. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, but it's not good enough, obviously, because if you were the best, you would be there. You would be chosen.
Yeah.
So,
So how do you think the transfer portal
mm.
is, it's not just affecting the girls in college now, but how about the girls coming out of high school, which normally would have been maybe chosen, but now these coaches can say, I don't need a high school kid. I want a girl who can play right now.
Well, yeah. Yeah, right when that happened, I had a couple people that were just coming out of high school, and it broke your heart because these kids have trained their whole lives. Again, there's an expectation of, okay, am I good enough? I should go, and you don't know until your number just doesn't get called, until you don't get an offer. And then, yeah, there's just a trickle down effect. And I think this transfer portal thing is going to be reined in a little bit.
Yeah.
Like at this point, people can go to 4 different schools and
I know.
okay, like you had a great experience, but we're just like not getting the loyalty on these teams. It's just a completely different ball game now.
No. I think my opinion is I think they're going to start to incentivize the coaches for retention, you know? Even though they're getting paid a ton of money as it is, some of them, but they got to do something to get these kids to stay. And it can't just be, well, I don't like it because I'm not playing. Well, something's got to change.
Well, yeah, and I don't know how you do that because these coaches are being paid to win,
Yeah.
right? At a certain level.
Yeah.
So then what we're incentivizing them to keep somebody that they otherwise wouldn't. It's just
Yeah.
it's the Wild West right now.
Yeah.
Like I would love that idea. Like, hey, stick with your team. You picked them, keep them there versus all right, you guys didn't win. Find somebody in the portal. Easy.
Yeah. So how did your work ethic change? It sounds like you probably had one of the most elite work ethics in the game, but how did your work ethic, and this might be helpful to the girls or guys listening, How did it evolve over time?
Became a lot more internal, a lot of internal work. When you're growing up, you're learning your movements, you're learning your body, especially as a youth athlete, your body's changing from the time that you fall in love with the sport when you're 5, 6, 7, 8, even when you're 14 years old, you're a completely different person and your body's very different to the time that you get to college and you're a college freshman. So even in college, you're lifting more weights, you're eating more food, you're in charge of your own schedule. Like all of that training, it's all like a lot physical.
Yeah,
Uh, I know later in my career, I had to focus on my mentality because that's where I severely lacked. Even though I played well, I left a lot on the table, and that's just due to I wasn't prepared mentally. And that's one of the only things I try to talk about with my athletes at this point.
right. So what if you could go backwards, how would you make that different?
I would implement mental reps with my physical reps. So it's not enough to do the rep. It's just not, right? Okay, I'm going to train my body to do this, but what's your self-talk as you're doing that rep? Are you visualizing? Are you putting yourself in the space? Are you getting your body connected with your mind and giving yourself those affirmations?
Hmm.
Because I think as a kid, I'm just thinking, oh, this is just the woo woo. Like I don't need to pump myself up. I don't need to be fake. I'm real right now. I need to get better. But like as a kid, I didn't really realize that that's 90% of all of it is
Yeah,
what you're telling yourself, what you believe is possible. And yeah, it does sound like woo woo until you do it and it freaking works and it
right.
blows everybody else out of the water.
Yeah. If I go back a long time ago, and I don't know how much has really changed today, but sports is all about the physical.
Mm.
In the gym, your workouts, your weights, your running, your everything. And it's very little, a long time ago, there was zero mental. There was no mental focus of anything. And how do you think that's evolved today? Are the athletes today, are the schools today, the coaches today more focused on the mental side, or is it still too far away yet?
I would say that it is 50-50 with their actually being focused on it. I think there's been a lot of confusion when there's like mental health matters, the whole movement with student athletes.
Right,
That I mean, it's involved, right? But it's not the same as the mental game. Mental game is completely different than mental health, and but there comes to be a really fine line when you're dealing with college athletes, dealing with humans that are just realizing their own consciousness and perspective and opinions, and they're going to school and their political beliefs are being challenged, their religious beliefs are being challenged. They're in a really fragile state if you really think about it. And I think a lot of coaches, programs kind of forget that sometimes. And
they
I mean,
forget they're just
it's,
kids.
yeah.
Yeah, they're 18-year-old kids.
And also, it is helpful for them not to have to, that's it's not their job to be just, okay, I need to be their therapist and they're this and they're
Yeah,
they're, coming of age guardian.
yeah,
They're a football coach, they're a softball coach, they're a baseball coach. But understanding that they can't just disconnect from that either. Like you only have one brain, you only have one journey, you have one
yeah,
experience. And I think the mental game and just mental skills in general are something to focus on um, as you get to be more elite.
yeah, yeah. I interviewed this young woman couple number of months back. She was a rower, and they posted the weights of the girls, the physical weight on a board, and would tell them, you can't be above this weight, or else there's a problem. I can't
See, this
imagine
is
what that's got to
what,
be
yeah,
like
this
for
is
them.
what's tough. This is what's tough because, and I've been thinking about this a lot, right? How much does the physicality of your sport affect your ability to be dominant, actually perform? because athletics is the use of your body
Yeah.
to be dominant over another team, to win
Yeah.
between wins and losses. With why is it any different when we're talking males and females about like, all right, you need to be heavier or lighter? It's all like how you use your body as an instrument.
Yeah.
So to that regard, yeah, it's like doesn't feel good to look at your weight up there and you're like,
Yeah.
maybe as a college kid, you're drinking or, I mean, in
Yeah.
reality, I gained my freshman year, I gained like 30 pounds. And it was a combination of I'm lifting, I'm eating a lot more. Honestly, I'm drinking at parties sometimes.
Yeah.
Just like if I could go back, I would not do that. But hey, like you're growing up, you're an
Yeah.
18, 19-year-old kid, and that's bad. But
Now, how did that affect your playing? Was that helpful or was that detrimental in your actual results? Gaining that weight.
uh, alcohol, I believe, is always 100% detrimental to me. Just in my and
I think
like
that's
my body
everybody.
processes it and
Yeah.
everything. And
Right.
just in terms of who I was when I was a freshman, sophomore, and junior in college, I had like social anxiety. I was just like, I just need this, or I thought I did. So yeah,
Right.
go back. I just take that out of the picture.
Right. Now, social anxiety, I hear, different types of social stresses, let's say, but how it's got to be even harder to be at a school of your caliber, the athletic program, and to deal with academics, because obviously your academics were incredible, yet your skill sets on the athletic field were awesome. The pressure to win, and you guys weren't just good, you guys were really good. And then you gotta have a social life. Like, how the hell do you do that?
You hang out with a lot of other athletes that kind of
Yep.
get you already. But in that regard, it's like, okay, you're really comfortable with your teammates. All right, we're going to go to this party at the baseball house or hang out with the soccer girls. And we're just like, okay, uh, I I'm sleep deprived. I don't really want to be out of the house,
Yeah.
and now I have to go and party or like be social. It's
Yeah.
was kind of definitely bottom of the totem pole for me of just how many hours do you even have in a day to
Yeah.
be on? And
Yep.
for me, it was just not
And
enough.
that wears you out sometimes too, right, Morgan? Where you're not just athletically on, but if you have to mentally be, hey, I gotta have this social joyfulness all the time, so
Yeah,
people think I'm this fun person, and inside you're like, man, I gotta go to bed, right?
100%. 100%.
You know? So talk about showing up freshman year, University of Washington, 18 years old. You're with girls that are 19, 20, 21, 22, maybe even 23, fifth year seniors. And at that time, at that stage, 23 seems like ancient, old people. What's that like showing up and being around girls that are that good?
It was cool just actually being on the field, right? I got to learn from Ashley Charters, who ended up being on Team USA. Uh, she was going to be a senior shortstop, but she ended up redshirting, so I got to play with her 2 years. But seeing the amount of skill that she had and the development versus me, I felt like a clunky robot compared to these girls that are just like so well versed in the game. They just talk the game differently. um, I was just so enamored with this process that seemed so dialed in. And I mean, it made me want to get there. Obviously, just like really seeing the amount of skill and the amount of confidence that these women had that I just felt like I was thrown in the deep end,
Yeah.
just trying to tread water.
Yep. Now, were they welcoming to you? Like, hey, here comes the incoming freshman. We'll put our arms around them and welcome them. Or were they like, oh no, these girls could take our job. We don't want to talk to them.
I came in at a unique time because Ashley Charters was a shortstop and she wasn't going to play that season. She was redshirting. I was very much welcome because I ended up starting at shortstop because she could no longer play. So I was just like, boom, I'm in, and I got to be like, I don't know, she was my mentor.
Yeah.
And it was really a lot easier for me than I know it is for a lot of freshmen. Especially now, I feel like freshmen come in and they're already like built and they've
Oh
been
yeah.
lifting weights and they skipped a year in high school, so they're just like a little bit older, a little bit
Yeah.
wiser, and
Yeah.
they file right in.
Now, you guys won the national championship.
In 2009, yeah, that's my sophomore year.
How was that? That must have been incredible.
It was awesome. I mean, like one of the coolest times of my life, I think. I don't really have anything to compare it to because there's never going to be another time in your life when you are on a team going for that shared goal. And because everybody understood their role at the time that we won, I mean, we're the only team that wins the last game of the season, right? As a
Yeah.
championship team. Uh, there was nothing else that we were focused on. There was no drama. This always happens when your team wins, right? There's always drama when you suck and you lose.
Yep.
Uh, but yeah, it was a very cool moment because everybody on the bench was up on the fence just cheering for us. Danielle Laurie, one of the coolest pitchers to play behind, just so intense, so fierce. I remember just being at third base and like looking around the infield and just being in like kind of disbelief and wanting like clicking myself back into the moment, just like, am I really here? Am I going to throw my glove up in the air? And then it's like pitches on the way. I'm flinging my glove. I'm sprinting into the dog
Yeah.
pile, and it's just like everything that you'd imagine it. It's like pure happiness.
Oh yeah. And I try. I'm going to ask you this question. I ask everybody, and can you describe what it feels like to be on the field playing college sports, especially a championship? But how do you describe it? To a person who's never played a college anything. How do you describe how you're feeling inside? Can you do that?
How would I describe it? I think the moment of me trying to click back into reality happened a lot to me because I feel like college sports, at least for a lot of women, is our last chance at playing or the last time we want to play, right? We're moving on to different things. Our
Yeah.
professional league at that point wasn't nearly as developed as it is now, so we're moving on. And so me like kind of clicking back into reality, it's you're living your dream. You're living like you're doing what you've always wanted to do.
Hmm.
And for me, and this is part of the mentality that I had when I was in college, is I always felt like, oh my gosh, am I like this could be the last time I do this. This could be the last time that I do this. And like going through those thoughts was detrimental, but it just means so much
Yeah.
that it's almost like you do yourself a disservice not to be in the moment,
Yeah.
but you can't help but uh, just be kind of in awe of like where everything that you've done to get to that point.
Yeah. But it's hard to explain the inner gut feeling. But I know exactly what you're talking about because I've been on an athletic field, college, and it's like euphoric. Like
Hmm.
that's how it's just a euphoric feeling. I can't put it on paper. But if I talk to another college athlete, I get it. I know what you're talking about. But if you talk to a person who's never played a college down or inning or of anything, they're like, "What are you talking about?" You
Yeah,
know?
well, that's why anyone of any sport, when you talk to them, you're like, oh, they get it.
Yeah, 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 without a
They've
doubt,
been there. I don't have to
without a
explain
doubt.
myself.
Yep. So, a question I ask a lot of people is, I'm sure that is the answer you're going to give me anyway, but give me your most memorable moment, both on and off the field at University of Washington, and you probably just nailed it with the national championship, but maybe not.
Yeah, no, I have two from that tournament. I have one. So actually winning, that's probably like my proudest moment because it's like a team thing. It was our first championship, our only championship at Washington. But the game to get to that championship series, we're playing ASU, and I'm having a really good tournament up until then, and people are like now scouting me. They're like, all right, let's throw her really far out. Let's throw her changeups. Let's do this. And I come up, it's extra innings, bottom of the eighth, and my first pitch, I foul it straight back. And at that point, my travel ball coach from growing up is in the stands. And like, it's almost like we were thinking the exact same thing. Because I talked to him after, and he's like, what were you thinking right before the first pitch?" And I was thinking, I want to be the one. I want to be the one to win it. And we've got a runner on third. My first pitch, I foul it straight back, and he just knew I was going to do it. The next pitch, I just like it's just like a nubbed ball that just gets over the shortstop's glove. Who cares what it looks like? It's a
Yeah,
hit.
just
We
yeah.
win, and it gets us to the championship game. But uh, yeah, that's probably individually a great moment for me because growing up, I was a terrible hitter. I was just like not. That's the thing that would have held me back from being a D1 player
Yeah,
was
but terrible compared to what? You played at the highest level of softball possible. How terrible could it have been?
um I had a coach when I was 14 say that I would never play in college.
Oh my
That
God.
terrible.
That guy
But
should, whoever that is, they should have been thrown off out of the court, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that if you're an athlete, you want to be great, you hear that
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, what am I going to do with that now?
Yeah.
It's you can either play the victim and go, oh, well, that's why I'm not going to make it, or okay, that's why I'm going to make it.
Yeah. So how about off the field? Memorable moment off the field.
Memorable moment off the field. Great question. Gosh. I don't think I've ever been asked that from
Yeah.
at Washington. I think it would probably be my visit incoming as like I'm a senior in high school and they take us to like Pike's Market and it's like where they throw the fish and all
Yep.
this. Have you
Yep.
seen these?
Yeah. I've been there.
And I had this fish thrown at me, caught it like this, and I don't know. I guess that's just it seems like really lame now because I don't have any other
Is that
memories.
when you knew you belonged?
Yeah, it I did get a really like a feeling of home in
Yeah.
Seattle, which is something that I didn't think that was going to happen. People would say, "Oh, you're just going to know. You're just going to know." Okay. And then walking into the campus is like, "Okay. I just need to cancel all my other trips.
Yeah.
This is where I want to be."
What you just said is so true. Like you just feel it. Like this is where I belong.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's maybe the girls that hosted you made you feel that way. Maybe just your coach that recruited you. Maybe it's the vibe of the school. Maybe the weather was perfect that day.
It was actually. It was perfect weather and then it never happened again.
Yeah, like I say, you don't get much good weather up there.
No, no,
Yeah.
no.
So how about, what kind of values did you learn, from playing college softball at that level? And what were they, and what did you carry with you when you left?
Values. Gosh, there's a lot of life skills that you learn just living by yourself. I think that one of the biggest things was just consistency and knowing that no matter how you feel, like motivation doesn't isn't really a thing after
Comes
a
and goes.
while. Like after the excitement wears off of like being there, after the excitement wears off of oh cool, I get to practice where this at the same place that the football team practices. This is amazing. And then it's like 5 months in and it's raining on you again. What like are you gonna bring that bad energy that you don't want to be there in with your team? Or consistently can you show up, be a good teammate, and then that's a whole nother story of being a good teammate. I think being in college, you really learn the value of having great teammates and then what that means, right? Because when you struggle, because it's so important, I know that I did this many times playing, is you go internal, right? You're mad at yourself, you're cussing, your whole body changes. You're looking down, you don't want to look at anybody, you're slumped. And I had our infield coach JT D'Amico, he used this phrase, get external. Get external. And he like yell it out there after somebody made a mistake. And for a while I'm like, what the heck is he talking about? I don't know what he's saying. And it was just, you talked about in the beginning about softball and the energy.
Yeah.
And get external to us meant get your eyes up, right your ship, like better body language because the energy that you put off, it's not about you. You're
Yep.
That's our way of being a good teammate is just imagine somebody makes a mistake and they're down on themselves. As a teammate, you're looking at them and you're either like, all right, I don't want to look at them because they already feel bad enough, or okay, let's not throw her the ball because she's upset. And like everybody's thinking about that because you're upset. The minute that you give everybody else permission to freaking forget it because you have displayed that you've forgotten it, then it gives everyone permission to give the energy back to the next pitch because that's
Right.
really what matters.
And that's what you see in when I watch college softball. I probably watched you on TV. I don't even know it, you
I
know.
hope so.
Yeah, I'm sure I did. I have to go back and look. But the energy that you girls bring, you ladies bring to the game, it's infectious, you know. And there's just nobody sitting on the bench in the dugout. Everyone's on the fence. Everybody's yelling, screaming, clapping, singing. You get the fans going. Like it's entertaining.
Yeah.
You know, it's fun to watch, but and everything's so fast. You know, the infield, everything moves so fast, and it's. I mean, you got to be good. I mean, this field's so small compared to the guys. You know, you got to be able to react. And you at third base, like, talk about that for a second. What's it like to sit there at third base? How many feet away are you? 45 feet?
Or 60 feet. Bases are 60 feet.
60? But when you go in for up front, you're trying to, stop something. You're
Oh
moving
yeah,
10.
you're in there at 40 feet. You're
Yeah.
or
And these
less, you
girls are
know.
ripping it. Like, what's that like?
It can be scary. I mean, obviously you have to be good, but it's like a game within a game, right? Because you're playing against slappers that could just drop it down in front of you. You're playing against these massive girls that, if you are not paying attention, if you have the wrong first step, it could just get you in the side of the head. So, the game within the game to me was something that was one of my favorites. You know, I grew up a shortstop, and when I moved over to third base my sophomore year, I was nervous. I was just like, man, I've
Yeah.
never played here before, if you can believe that growing up. And I just had to learn on the fly in college facing these girls. And my head coach, Coach Tar, was actually a baseman at Washington as well. So she had this like tennis ball drill. She would just like rip tennis balls at me because it's really just like reaction time
Yeah.
is the real thing that's different from third to short, and then just the actual like going forward and back to field a bunt or field behind the baseline.
Yeah.
So the game within the game you're playing is like you're showing like how far in or back you are by like using your voice and like walking around your space so that if there's a like a I don't know 100-pound slapper that's on the left side, she's deciding, all right, am I going to hit it or am I going to bunt it? I'm starting up a little bit closer just to like bait her to not bunt it, and then I'm just like backing up so that she just kind of hits it right to me. So it's fun, you know. It's I there's no other way to describe it besides after you do your training of like, all right, I'm pretty sure I can handle this. There's
Yep.
always some danger, but most of the time it's just fun.
Well, I would imagine that the drill with the tennis balls, it's a lot less fearful because if those things hit you, it doesn't hurt as bad as the softball.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, she described it as this is kind of like a hockey goalie drill. That's how I want you to
Yeah.
react to these balls. I'm like, cool, let's
Yeah.
do
Now,
it.
now, why did you move from short to third? Is that because you were better there, or there was a reason for that?
The reason was Jen Salling was one of the best players that's ever played the college game. She transferred from Oregon to Washington, and it made us way better. At the time, I was like, this girl's gonna come in and just take my spot. But then like I already knew who Jen Salling was because she was freshman of the year. She's on Team Canada. She's a freak of nature. She's so good, and
Right.
she's a great person as well. So I was brought into my coach's office. She's like, okay, well, we want to move you to third. How do you feel about that? I'm like, okay. Like,
Do what we gotta do,
how are you
right?
gonna argue with that? I mean,
Yeah.
she's amazing, and I get to be on the field.
Well,
So
you're like A-Rod,
yeah,
right?
exactly
It's
like
the same exact thing. You know, one of the best players ever to play the game goes to the Yankees, and They ask him to move to third base because one of the best players is at short. What are you
Yeah.
going to do?
What are you
You
gonna
know,
do?
as long as you're playing, I would say I don't care where you put me on the wall in the outfield. I'll put me anywhere. I don't care.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
it ended up working out great because I believe I'm a better third baseman than a shortstop anyways, so it's
yeah,
perfect.
that's well, you had one hell of a career. I'll tell you that. So, advice to the young girls coming in. What can you today's like you said, the world's changed. The pressure's incredible. Social media is beating these kids up. What advice can you give the high school kid coming in, or how about the person transferring from one school to another? Two
Mm.
different scenarios.
I guess to just kids immediately coming in, have patience. That's
Hmm.
like the hardest thing for us athletes to is
Yep.
have patience for yourself as you're going through a lot of different things in your journey. Having patience doesn't mean not being tough, not having that grit, not having a fire. Having patience means not just beating yourself up, because if you're not the player that you want to be, you just have to attach that word yet to the end, right? It's never over until you say it's over. You're just going to continue to grow and continue to develop into that player until you figure it out. And I think that patience word is something I wish I had a ton more of even now as an adult.
Well, age, kind of forces you to be patient,
Yeah.
you know. But
For sure.
how about would you think it's the same thing for the girls coming out of high school and the transfer girls? Same idea, have patience, or are they transferring because they're transferring for immediate results?
I don't know. The transfer girls, there's always a reason, right, why they're transferring, right? And me, because I've been kind of anti-transfers just in general,
I
like, hey,
can't stand it.
you made a commitment,
Yeah,
honor your commitment,
right.
stay there. And there's a bunch of different scenarios, right? Either they're not playing, or the coaching staff change and they don't vibe with them, or they're never gonna play, or they get injured and some whatever.
Yep.
I think for those girls, I go back to a competitive mindset. And what I mean by that is anytime you fail or something doesn't go your way, it's not going to feel good ever. And we're not trying to get back up from that failure and feel good about it. But what's important now? Getting to that competitive mindset just means we're not playing the victim. We're not telling ourselves some sort of story that's going to make it easier for us to digest. We're looking at the facts and we're going forward from there. So, just in terms of the transfers, okay, you have to transfer. Now, I think the issue is when there's like multiple transfers in on one resume. That's when I think we're telling ourselves a story in our head that the
Yeah.
grass is going to be greener, or that somebody's wronging us and we need to
Right.
figure it out somewhere else. But that competitive mindset, I think, is something that is advice for any athlete too,
Yep.
of you don't have to feel good where you're at. We've got to figure it out from that point and move forward.
Here's my solution to the transfer portal, right? Everybody gets one. I don't care what the reason is. You want to go, go. Your coach leaves, you say, whatever the reason, who cares? You want to go twice, you got to pay the school back for the one you left.
That sounds fair.
You know what I mean? And now with the NIL stuff, people just throw here, I'll pay the money back.
Mm.
But there's a lot of kids that are transferring with no NIL money, and they can't pay that back. That'll keep them from going. They'll think twice. But everybody gets one. Everybody gets one transfer. Who cares? Because the coaches can leave when they want, let the players leave when they want, but just once.
I mean, that sounds fair to me. It's still
Yeah.
college sports. We're not
Yeah.
doing trades. We're not,
Right.
you know.
But it's almost like trade. I mean, that's funny you say that. I bet you colleges start trading kids soon.
I
You
have
know?
I really hope not. I
Yeah.
really hope not.
No.
That would be
That'd be
terrible.
tough. That would definitely kill college sports. It'll just
I
become, the other thought I was thinking of is like Gino at UConn. He's like, come on, these are professional athletes. Let's just face it. Let's just get real and tell the truth. And my think is, hey, you know what? If you're going to go play college softball at University of Washington, that's your major. You're going to learn, baseball. You're going to learn football, whatever sport you're playing. You're going to own and live and breathe that sport from the top to the bottom, rules, regulations, game. That's your major. Play the sport, get paid to be there, graduate with an athletic degree,
Hmm.
right? Because that's what most, I'm not saying you at all, but that's what most athletes graduate with anyway.
Well, right.
They're there. Like I went to school for free, play football. If it wasn't for football, I wouldn't have went to school. So what was I really there for? They weren't paying me to go to class. They're paying me to go play football. Now I'm supposed to get a degree that comes along with it, which I did, which was great. But the point is like, what are we really there for? Where are you putting most of your time?
Yeah,
You know
your
what I mean?
sport,
You know what I mean?
100%.
It's crazy. So how about setbacks? Any setbacks for you while you were playing? There he is. There's your dog.
There he is. We heard somebody knocking at the door.
All right. But any setbacks for you?
My junior year was a big setback. So we won my sophomore year, and I was named a preseason All-American. We had 9 seniors graduate from that 2009 team, and so it was my turn to lead. Me along with our senior pitcher Danielle, and now senior shortstop Jen Salling, and yeah, I couldn't hit. It was one of those things where yeah, so much expectation, and I couldn't figure it out over and over and over again. And because I had so much identity in my performance, because I had so much writing on just being able to be that person, I was super hard on myself. And I actually, I mean, it's tough to talk about this with young athletes, but I fell into depression actually like that whole season, starting in like February through June. I was just like a shell of a human. And it's not something that just happens because you're bad at sports. It happens like from multiple things. Um, my family just has a history of that kind of like mental illness, really. But yeah, it didn't really help me a ton that I was very hard on myself, that my self-talk was terrible. And yeah, I had to live with the fact that it felt like I wasted a whole season of just being just mentally out of it.
So, was there any resources for you there? Any go-to people? Any help? If so, who were they? How'd they help you? And how did you get out of that?
Yeah, we had a sports psychologist that was on campus, which was nice, but I had to schedule it kind of through the team, and then people knew that I was kind of going through some stuff. Um, and I had never really had any uh, experience with going to therapy, doing anything outside. Um, and so in terms of resources, they had it for you. You know, if you had to reach out and say that you needed help, which is really
Right.
tough for a lot of athletes.
Most people are scared to do it,
Hmm.
because they're afraid the coaches are going to say, "What's wrong with him or her?"
Right.
You
It
know?
becomes like a almost a training room issue, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to go through your trainer to be like, "Hey, I need to see the sports psych person," and then it's like red flags are up.
Yeah.
Okay, what's wrong with you? What?
Yeah.
So it becomes like this thing that's blown out of
Yeah.
proportion, which it's important,
Right.
but it's extremely hard to deal with when essentially I'm a 20-year-old kid
Yeah.
that doesn't want anybody to know that I'm
Yeah.
struggling.
And what you just hit it on the head is it's like they're like, "What's wrong with you?"
Hmm.
Versus if your knees bother you, they're like, "Come on in, let's fix that thing. Let's go." But when you say, "Hey, I'm not feeling too good upstairs mentally. I'm a little emotionally distraught. What's wrong with you?"
Hmm.
Well, if you're emotionally distraught or you're having some sort of anxiety, depression, whatever, well, how is she going to carry that onto the field? That's what they're thinking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Versus just fix it. Help her fix it, help her get through it, and that'll make her even better on the field because she's already good on the field, right?
Yeah. And then you've got a lot of different pieces of advice. Like, hey, have you gone outside today? Have you gone on a walk? Have you right? And it's kind of like trying to put a band-aid on an issue that I need professional help with.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, I think just having more resources available, not just for the mental health piece, but like training mental skills in general
yeah,
is critical. You know,
yeah.
just to get the information out there instead of athletes just having to hold it. by
Yep.
themselves and try to stay as still as
Yeah.
possible so that their coaches don't,
Yep. Now,
think
did you
they're
share
weak.
that? Did you share that with your teammates, or was that kind of something you kept quiet and private?
I was very, very much isolated. I didn't talk to teammates and talk to my coaches knew there's something going on with me. Um, but yeah, again, different time.
Yeah.
And our team was ranked number one in the country for the entire year. So it's one of those things. I'm a starting third baseman. There can't be too much wrong with me. My life's good, right? So you're kind of like gaslighting yourself a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I try to keep it under wraps. And then we were 2-out at the World Series. And the only thing I really remember is, I mean, I have so many amazing memories from 2009, right? I can
Yeah.
smell the dirt.
Yeah.
I am like told you the story of my game winning hit. And yeah, it's really incredible. I have no memory of the 2010, like actually playing on that field in 2010. I remember crying like into my dad's chest when we're all done, like in out the back gates, all the families around, and I'm just remember being like embarrassed, just going, why the F am I crying right now? Like people are like people are looking at me like, oh, and I'm thinking in my head that they're thinking, oh, she didn't even hit. Like, why is she crying? Why is she so upset now when she could have helped us before? And but I was just like, all the emotions were coming out because I was just
Yeah.
so relieved. I was just
Yeah.
done.
Right. Now, how was it when you were done? Done. Like, now that wasn't your last season. That was your junior year, right?
Hmm.
So how
Yeah.
was it, the last game, last at bat, last out on the field, walking off the field? How was that emotionally?
Funny enough, the last out of my whole career, I was running from first to second. Ball was hit to second, and I just get gut punched. And it's like the funniest and saddest metaphor ever because it just kind of felt like that, right? I just get punched in the gut, and it's just like, okay, just walk off the field then. I guess that's it. And I got interviewed after that game. It was like me and another senior, and you're just numb. Like there's just kind of nothing there
Yeah.
because, yeah, you don't have to prepare for another game. You don't have to
Yeah.
watch video. You're like, my career's done. So wh what do I have to care about at this
Yeah.
point?
It's almost like
Very, very traumatizing.
you can't even think about tomorrow because there is no tomorrow.
No.
That makes any sense, you know?
Yeah, it's like you said before, there's kind of like a death
Yeah.
of, yeah.
Yeah. Then you got to pick yourself up and go. So, how did you handle that? Transitioning out, okay, cool. School's over, sport's over. You've had this awesome track since. So let's talk about that. What are you doing work-wise, your companies, and your book? Got to talk about the book.
Yes.
And for those that aren't following you, they have to follow you on Instagram and listen to you read from your book. It's really good.
Yeah, no, I've enjoyed writing it, and it's really based on all these different periods of my life, which is cool that we're touching on because I share a lot of different stories, and not because I want everybody to know my stories, just because I think stories are so powerful,
Yeah.
right? Like everyone can kind of see themselves or like, how would I react in that situation? But yeah, after I graduated, I tried the college coaching route, and it just really wasn't for me. There was so much office work there's so much recruiting, and it's just the
Yeah.
stuff that I didn't want to do. So I decided to make my own job doing what I wanted to do, which was develop youth athletes. So that's where I wanted to kind of have my sweet spot. I myself and three of my friends made this clinic group called the Package Deal, and we traveled around for like 6 years, 7 years. It was a lot. We were like kind of a traveling rock band of softball clinics.
Yeah.
But to one year we had 53 cities in a year that we
My
hit.
God.
It was really cool, really exhausting. And then COVID
I bet.
hit, and we all kind of laid roots down where we were and decided to just pick up in our individual specialties, which mine's defense. So I've been in Anaheim for over 10 years now, just giving lessons. That has built up my online community defense club. And yeah, then I wrote a book last year, which was really cool.
So bring me through the writing of the book. How did you choose which parts of your life to put in there? And then how do you use that today to help other people?
Uh, the book came about because in 2018, Defense Club actually was, I launched it, that name, that brand name, I launched it as like the next thing that I wanted to do in sport, which was mentality. And the name really didn't make sense. So I like shifted it to the real work. But the curriculum, like the ASAP training, everything that you see in the book that is divided by those four sections of ASAP, that came from before when I was developing this curriculum of, um, and I got it from my actual softball lessons, looking at how different athletes recover from failure, because I believe is just like the root of developing mental toughness, understanding resiliency, and uh, really just getting better is learning from your failures and using failure as a tool. So in terms of the story and just how the book came out, those stories just kind of poured out of me. It was just like the weirdest thing. I had my curriculum, and I'm working with a marketing team, so they're like, "Oh, do you want to put out like a little pamphlet book with your mental ideas?" I'm like, "No, I think I want to write a real book." They're like, "Okay, well, let us know when it's done." And it just kept coming, kept pouring out, and I really wanted to relate to all the different ages that I work with, which was tough because it's really not a kid's book, right? I would recommend this book to, at the youngest, probably a high school freshman and up.
Hmm?
Because when you're growing up, you need to have fun in the sport.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to just overcoach this mentality. Like I'm always preaching like the standards and making sure we're giving good eye contact, hustling, and making adjustments, right? Keeping yourself to that standard. But other than that, um, I pick these stories based on what I think are the most important issues for a lot of girls growing up. I had like myself as a kid in my mind of like, what did I need to hear growing up?
So what do you think? You almost hit my next question, but what do you think the biggest issues the girls have today? And what are some of the biggest mistakes they're making today that they can maybe avoid?
Biggest issues of girls today. Um, a lot are concerned about what other people think. I mean,
Hmm.
that's just the youth in general
Yeah.
is, as we start to get older, we start to become aware that other people are judging us, and
Hmm.
that really influences our ability to find the joy and the fun in our sport. And our sport changes from something that we're doing for ourselves because we love it, and it morphs into something else. And in that time, uh, it's kind of a dangerous time to be a youth athlete because
Right.
we see a lot of people that don't make it to the elite level or don't want to continue on because it's too much, right? And when you really take a deep dive into like, okay, what's too much though?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to fail. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do the work. I don't want to do that. Okay, why? And then a lot of it comes down to like, well, I don't want to disappoint my parents. I don't like my coach like says I do this and this wrong, and it's just a lot. And it's just very much external instead
Yeah.
of, all right, why did you start? Do you love this? Do you want to be the best at it? Okay, you're going to go far. You're going to be elite because that's how the greatest athletes are thinking. Like, I want to be better than that girl. I'm not concerned about all the noise over here about, you know, uh, if it looks a certain way.
Well, the challenge though that all athletes have, I don't care, men, women, what sport they're playing, we're judged our entire life from third grade, fifth grade, eighth grade, 10th grade, college, pro. You're always being judged on your skill,
Hmm.
and that's tough when other people get to decide, even though, like you said, we decide how good we want to be. We focus on our ability. We focus on, hey, try and kind of like rule that out. But it's got to be so hard, you know?
100%. Yeah, and that's why our foundation has to be so strong, and
Yeah.
we have to continue to build up that idea of process over results. Because
Yeah.
if I'm doing the right thing, if I'm putting in the body of work, if I have my goals aligned with my actions, then no matter where I am today is not going to be like somebody judging me right now at the beginning of my book has no right or ability to influence how much work I'm going to put in the future because they're only seeing one small portion of my journey.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, it's something we have to battle, right?
Yeah.
And understand the perspective of what athlete are they looking at right now? I mean, there's so
Mhm.
many outrageous like ratings now. Oh, the best 10 and under player in the country. Okay,
Yeah. How do they judge that?
cool, cool, but also who cares? Like that's not going to be why they get recruited is how
Yeah.
good you were at 10 years old.
Right. Well, you said before in the book, yeah, ASAP training. What
Mhm.
does that mean? Talk about that. Break it down. Let everybody hear what that's the foundation of that is.
Yes. So it's called ASAP training because everybody wants to just get over failure as quick as possible, right? Some people don't want to even think about it. But the core idea is that we have to deal with failure in a healthy way. So ASAP, all the different letters mean something. First, A is acknowledge failure. Second one is spot your failure personality. Third one is adjust. Last one is practice daily. And the book goes into breaking all of those steps down, really. But big idea is you experience failure. We have our natural way that we kind of initially want to react to failure. Some people are angry, some people are emotional, some people get really internal. That's me. And will isolate, don't want to talk to anybody. But really, that adjustment piece is about what's going to get us back to a competitive mindset, not so that we feel good, just so that we're able to be more self aware and understand what's a healthy reaction right now. What can I do that's going to get me to the next pitch? And then I think the hardest part is practicing that same reaction every single day because that's when it becomes habit.
Practice,
Mm.
right? Nobody likes it, but talk about the importance of it because in the world that I live in, I'm in the financial world, and we have to practice presentations and language and process, and it's just so much like scripting to learn, and it's always, did you practice it? How many times did you role play it? How much time did you work on it? How much time did you spend doing it? You know, and the young people today, I hate to say that, it's like almost practice. Do I really need this? I'm good. I'm good. You know, can you talk about practice? And I know you're talking about practicing about the mental side of it too, right? Not just the physical side. So can you break that down?
Oh, yeah. Um, when I told this story, I don't think this story is actually in my book, and this has stuck with me for years and years and years. And I think about it every single time that I am in front of these young kids. And the story of when I was in third grade, learning how to read. Okay. We're learning how to read. And me as a third grader, I didn't like reading. I just didn't like it. But you get sent home with these reading logs, 20 minutes a day.
Yep.
All right, I'm in Miss Simmons' third grade class, and I go home and I've got the choice. All right, it's time to read Ramona Quimby right now. Am I going to read or not? On the reading log, this seems like a trick. All I have to do is write 20 minutes, and then my parent just has to initial. And my parent's not going to be here for those 20 minutes that I'm reading. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to write 20 minutes, and then I'm going to write my parents', initial, because who cares, right? It's just a piece of paper. And me as a kid in third grade, I'm like, I'm the smartest kid ever. That's easy. That's easy homework. Gets to, a few weeks down the road, I've turned in a few reading logs, and now we're doing popcorn reading. Ramona Quimby, you guys have read this book. Great. Awesome. Let's popcorn read in class. Morgan, let's go. Lead us off. And I'm looking and staring down at the book and I'm like crying, sobbing. 'Cause I can't read. Or at least I'm not going to be as good as the last person that read.
And this is third grade.
Third grade.
Oh, the mental trauma,
Oh, trust me.
huh?
That's when it all clicked into place for me. Like, oh, that meant something. Me, like, actually putting in the work meant something. Also, you know, a lot of kids that come to like learn how to play catch with me, their eyes are rolling in the back of their head because they're bored of me going, hey, remember, catch it under this eye. Make sure your fingers are pointed this way. Let's make sure the ball stays facing down. And these things that I'm saying every single time they're coming to me. And sometimes I'll ask, why do you think I'm telling you that right now? Because I'm not doing it right. And why do you think you're not doing it? Because we didn't practice the right way at home. So you're just doing it the wrong way. So these are negative reps. Why do you want to be getting worse
Mm.
here? So I think about that reading story a lot because, yeah, it was traumatic for me. My mom was like, obviously really upset. I learned what forging a signature was. I learned the value of actually practicing and just the lights came on of these things matter. Like we can learn in the classroom, but actually understanding and creating the habit of what we naturally react with when we are faced with words on a page, a ball hit at us, or a situation that's just not going to go our way. What we naturally react with is what we've practiced over and over. So, say something happens, a ball goes through my legs, and over, my reaction to something bad that happens is I suck or wow,
Mm.
again, right? You're practicing that self talk over and over instead of, all right, I got this, eyes up, chest up, be external. Whatever the reaction that you want to have that gets you back to competitive, that's going to make you a better teammate, make you an asset on the team instead of just draining the energy of those people around you.
So how does a young athlete handle a very aggressive verbal coach who is really getting on you about what you're not doing?
This is where I have a hard time relating to those athletes because I had a really aggressive coach as a younger athlete, and I was always harder on myself than that coach could be. So
Yeah.
it's almost like I heard it, but I was really trying to go, all right, what's he say? Like, what is he saying to me? I like my feelings didn't get hurt that he was
Yeah.
yelling at me. I'm just like,
Yeah.
tell me what I did wrong.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I've encountered a lot of parents that are like, well, what does my daughter do if my coach is yelling at her? Okay, you have to know your daughter more, like, you know your daughter better than anyone. You know your kid.
Yep.
Is she, is this a detriment to her? The tone of voice? Because a parent going up to a coach and saying, hey, you can't talk to my daughter like that, that's like recipe for disaster,
Yeah.
right?
That's not good.
That's not going to work out. So, parents at that age, you got the power to be like, hey, you need a different coach. Then let's move on.
Yeah.
Or if you know your daughter, you know your player, you're like, you know what? I kind of want her to be exposed to this because that might happen in college. And we don't have the, ability to just save her every time.
Right.
So I think that's when conversation is really important with a parent and an athlete. Hey, how did it go today? And if it's over and over, oh, the coach said this, oh, the coach said that. Okay, what's the story you're telling in your head? Is the coach making you not perform? Or are you
Mhm.
saying that, or have you put in the work to actually get better? Right? Like what's the story here? Like underneath it all, what are we embarrassed that the coach is yelling at us, or are we embarrassed that we haven't put in that work? So, like, where are we at? So, I think that's when conversation is really, really powerful between the athlete and the parent,
Yeah.
because a lot of time the parent is going to validate that victim mentality, which is that's worst case scenario, I think.
Victim. I love you just brought that up. There's so many of the younger people today themselves is they got the woe is me mentality. Well, they're picking on me. Oh, the coach doesn't like me. Oh, it's political. And my answer is the coach wants to win. And I don't care if they like you or not. If they want to win and you're the best, you're going to play. So what are you doing to show the coach you want to play and you're the best person to put out there?
Yeah. I mean, playing time is a huge issue at every level,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you get this all the time. Oh, uh, I'm just as good. I'm just as good as this other girl, but it's not fair. It's
Yeah.
not fair. But guess what? The people that say it's not fair, they're not going to stick around. They're often not head and shoulders the choice that the coach should be making.
Right.
And I mean, that's your job as an athlete. Your job is not to make the lineup. Your job is not to judge one athlete against the other.
Right.
And often that's the parents kind of in the athlete's ear going, don't worry, honey, it's not your fault. It's the
Yeah.
coach. The coach doesn't want you to play. What does that do for
Yeah.
your athlete?
Yeah.
Nothing. And what I encourage my athletes to do is you make yourself the clear, far and away choice. And if you don't like your coach after all that because you think the coach is trying to bring you down, okay, then the coach looks kind of dumb, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Or she? Because you are clearly the better choice. And then you got options, right? Like you're the best player on the team, I guess, and you're on the bench. How? So it just doesn't happen.
No. I always say the best players play.
Hmm.
That's it. Now if they do something wrong and they belong, meaning because I don't mean like wrong or mistake, but wrong and they need to be disciplined and go sit over there, that's different. But the best players play,
Hmm.
and if you're not the best player, you know, you got to open up your mind and say, I get it. But now what else can I do to help the team win?
Hmm.
That's the mentality they got to have. And if you're sitting the bench, you got to just be ready, because you never know that best player who's in your spot could go down with an ankle sprain, a knee twist, a shoulder problem, and you better be ready.
Well, yeah, I mean, the season's very long, no matter what
Yeah.
sport you play. And
Yeah.
at the beginning of the season, we might not have the same lineup in the middle of the season, and definitely not the end of the season. There's going
Right.
to be roles that are switched around. There's going to be things that happen. Every
Yeah.
single season happens
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Without a doubt. So, your career, what's it looking like? You're still so young, you have so much time in front of you, so many things to accomplish and do. You know, what's the future look like for you?
I want to write a lot more. I think
Okay.
that's been something that I really enjoyed doing. I don't want to say it came easy because writing about like your history and all the things that it brings up is uh, I enjoyed it. I think I can give a lot more to these athletes and athletes growing up than just seeing the people that are local to me in Anaheim, California. And so that's what I see my future as. I want to write. I want to continue on social media. I want to continue kind of my online membership and try to just impact more of the coaching and parent community
Yep.
because as much as I want to believe I'm talking to the athlete in reality, I can disseminate a lot more information by impacting the coaches and the parents.
Yeah.
So that's my goal.
What about traveling and speaking to colleges and high school teams and using your book as the tool, the resource to promote?
I'd like to do that. I don't want to pretend that I love public speaking. I enjoy it to an extent, but yeah, in terms of I wrote a book, and now what do you do with books? You normally go around and speak about them and get
Yeah.
people excited about them. Um, I think that's in the future. It's not something
Yeah.
that I'm the most excited about. I love creating stuff. That's kind
Right.
of my wheelhouse.
Where do you see your companies going? Growing? Is it going to expand nationally, or you think you'll stay right where you're at?
I believe that our in-person coaching will stay in Anaheim, but I see us expanding with our coaching staff. We just launched a one-on-one program that's all virtual. And right now we launched with about 7 coaches, so I see that expanding.
Cool.
Um, but yeah, I mean the internet's a big place.
Oh,
I think that if it catches on, then I mean
just
if our product is good enough from an athlete mind, if a product is good enough,
yeah.
it's going to go far.
It's got it. The internet is just a universe.
Yeah.
It's unlimited, unlimited, right? So how can people get a hold of you? I'm hoping there's some young girls, some coaches listening to this and say, "Man, I got to talk to Morgan. I got to hire her. I want to bring her into our team, whatever." How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, if you liked what I talked about today, this is the Real Work website, therealwork.com. You can hire me to speak, make me do something I'm uncomfortable with.
You'd be great at it.
You can schedule a call. Realwork.com. All my softball stuff is morganstewart.com right now. And that you can learn about my lessons, you can learn about Defense Club, my online stuff. I've got coach manuals. Everything's there.
That's awesome. Well, Morgan, is there anything that I haven't brought up or we haven't talked about that you think we should hit before we wrap it up?
I think you did a really good job of touching them on just about
Hmm.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of hit your whole life story.
Yeah, that in under an hour and a half, that's pretty impressive. I don't
Yeah.
know if I should be embarrassed or if impressed.
No, well, I've been watching the clock just because I know we have a time constraint, and I want to make sure I hit all your hot buttons because I mean I could talk to you probably for another 2 more hours, because there's so much more to talk about, and I would love to have you back on again to go deeper in some areas. But this has been great, and I appreciate having you on. And for everybody who's listening, you have to go on Instagram and watch Morgan read her book, the chapters in her book. Just the way you deliver it is pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's got to be even more impressive now that you know that I couldn't read in third grade.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, you could read, you just didn't want to. Yeah,
well, I didn't want to practice that.
yeah,
That's for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, you didn't want to practice. But Morgan, thanks again. Appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to your continued success.
Thank you so much.